Hey guys, thanks for stopping by for another video here at All I See is W, where we talk about stocks, Bitcoin, and finance. In today's video, I'd like to talk about updates with Bitcoin commodity. We'll cover the latest updates around Bitcoin, as well as MicroStrategy. We'll take a look at the top three Bitcoin miners. I'll go through my fundamental and technical analysis of each here. Now, if you're new to this channel, I would really appreciate you hitting the like, subscribing for more related content. So, especially post inauguration with Donald Trump, we've been just hearing so much news around the executive order. We've heard about the global crypto task force being created, change in the leadership with the SEC, and now we're beginning to hear more about the strategic Bitcoin reserve. In fact, we heard about Arizona soon investing up to about 10% of its public funds in Bitcoin. So, this initiative in Arizona pioneers that state-led crypto investment, and think about other states within the United States that will be adopting Bitcoin immediately and getting approval from the Senate. So, with the new Bitcoin whales emerging, that's also signaling increased institutional interest and potential market stabilization. You think about the creation of IBIT, one of the biggest ETFs that has been created in 2024, that has created so much inflows with investors from the global markets, as well as even investing into companies like MicroStrategy and the Bitcoin miners. In fact, MicroStrategy, they purchased another $1.1 billion in Bitcoin, boosting its holding up to 471,000 of Bitcoin. So getting close to that 500,000 marker. And even with BlackRock, IBIT, there's just so much HODL buying up by even the largest financial institutions. But with the recent change in the SAB restriction, where now even central banks are able to custody Bitcoin, so working with clients to provide that service, banks are really going to start buying up more Bitcoin, allowing them to custody Bitcoin on top of companies not having to claim liabilities on their balance sheet with all of these changes here. So, a lot of good news coming, and we're beginning to see strategic Bitcoin reserve come into fruition, and just BlackRock surpassing the governments, highlighting escalating institutional interest in cryptocurrency investments. We'll talk more about that just with the latest updates. But I think with where we are with the upcoming news with the Federal Reserve, I think that's going to be a driving factor, as well as earnings reports that will be announced. But where we are right now, we're beginning to see some nice upward motion here. In fact, where we are currently at 104,000, there's anticipation that we may likely very well get positive news from the SEC. So let's say if we have rate cuts sometime in March, that's really going to start driving up the price of Bitcoin, being the catalyst there to really boost up the price of Bitcoin as interest rates goes down. The commodity price will go up. Let's take a look at the rainbow chart of Bitcoin. So as we know, 2024 was a halving event back in April. Key takeaway here is that we're still in that accumulation phase. We haven't even got to that yellow, orange, and darker red hue phase, where that is an indicator that we're at that topping out phase. But current state in 2025, we're in that bullish cycle. So anticipation that Bitcoin could very well break through that $150,000 into that $200,000 range in the year alone. Even the CEO of BlackRock is anticipating $700,000, as well as H.C. Wainwright suggesting 250,000 in this year alone. We're looking at an article here, BlackRock continues to buy up more Bitcoin, similar to the Titan company MicroStrategy. In fact, BlackRock, they actually own more Bitcoin than the US government right now. The US government actually owns about 471,000 Bitcoin, which is about 2.2% of Bitcoin's total supply. So the government, they are able to retrieve Bitcoin from the underground market from different court cases, but all of that is being held, none of that's sold. So this also leads towards that growing phase of the strategic Bitcoin reserve that Donald Trump is implementing. But you see here, the good news is BlackRock continues to aggressively buy up Bitcoin to meet the demands for all the clients that are just putting their money into this ETF here. And we're beginning to see the world's largest first cryptocurrency ETF. So now owning up to about 3% of the Bitcoin supply out of, 21 million Bitcoins available. This shows huge market sentiment, and a lot of other financial institutions will start adopting Bitcoin as this becomes a global game theory rush for economic and political power. Looking at, just with this article here, so there's been a lot of initiatives with cryptocurrency, not only in with Bitcoin, but we heard about the low cost AI model from DeepSeek News that actually caused, a trillion dollars in, investment loss during the week, but just with the recent news that have been coming out, MicroStrategy continues to buy up Bitcoin. There's even talks about having a Dogecoin ETF, Ripple court case. There's even talks about a Solana ETF with the SEC. So lots of market sentiment going on right now with the establishment and implementation of having a cryptocurrency ecosystem. But I think one of the driving interests would be whether there's going to be a reduction in the interest rate, a potential rate cut in March. That would actually cause the crypto market to rally as lower borrowing costs typically boost the risk appetite. So this is really going to be an interesting takeaway as we see what could happen with the news that will be announced very soon here. So lots of catalyst potential that we see along with earnings reports from these big time companies, including MicroStrategy. So here we're looking at a visual image here. B represents that, you are a US state that is an advocate for Bitcoin, with Arizona at the leading race, getting approval from the Senate soon to establish a strategic Bitcoin reserve. All other states like big time Texas here will also follow through. We also heard about Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, but eventually we're just going to see more pro crypto states that will be adopting this to really combat inflation, which has been one of the biggest systemic issues in the US here. What does this all mean? Price of Bitcoin is going to run up, as well as even price of MicroStrategy. So as price of Bitcoin goes up, investors of MSTR and Bitcoin miners will get, positive returns on their investment. Let's look at this Bitcoin article here. We see a visual display of Mara, leading the race with the mining companies. Now, when you put MSTR into this here, of course, there's going to be a big disparity. There's no second best to MicroStrategy. That's clearly understood because of their business model, having different levers to appease different client needs, whether you want to make money off of dividends, lower risk appetite through bond investments, or even higher risk type investments in MicroStrategy or their ETFs, which has two times volatility, MicroStrategy on steroids, such as MSTU. But what we're looking at here is, the Bitcoin miners. So just focusing on the top three Bitcoin miners, the top three hodlers. So you see here Mara over, 40,000 Bitcoins, right? I mean, they're close to about 18,000. CleanSpark reached their milestone of mining over 10,000 Bitcoins. Good news is that these top three miners, their hash rate is at that level where other Bitcoin miners can't really compare, as well as the HODL amount here. But with Mara having the highest hash rate, Riot Platforms, their hash rate is relatively high as well, and CleanSpark's hash rate is getting to that level where it's in that top three trajectory. But also, these companies have improved their fleet efficiency. So what that means is improved cost to mine Bitcoin, just based on using the latest and greatest Bitcoin mining devices out there. So that's what really will drive up the price as we hear more about strategic Bitcoin reserve, price of Bitcoin going up to 200,000. Think about the price of Mara, Riot, CleanSpark, including MicroStrategy. Let's take a look at technicals. So what we saw with MSTR was that, high point of 550. We're in this consolidation phase, even though we've been seeing recent bleed out here back in January 2021. So, post 9 days here, we're seeing this support level here at 332. Even though we saw 280 in the prior weeks, I do think that this is definitely going to be a bounce back here, especially earnings report come next week, Wednesday. We're going to hear so much positive news, actual earnings per share, blowing things out of the water. MicroStrategy being able to demonstrate that they're bringing in net income, not a net loss, and that's really going to attract investors who aren't currently invested in MicroStrategy, given the fact that they're able to show that they have a net income, at least for Q4 results of 2024. So I'm anticipating in 2025, early Q1, perhaps even in February, we're going to see this, run up back into that 400 range, retest that 550 before we gap up into the 1200 range. Let's take a look at just technicals of the big three miners. So we have Mara here in the candle color here, and we have CleanSpark in pink and Riot in purple. So we're just looking at it from a zoomed in perspective over the recent days of trading. So Riot has significantly underperformed. I mean, during the DeepSeek news release, most of the miners, including other, stocks, were underperforming. Big time loss. Riot dropped by about 17% that day. CleanSpark 10%, Mara 8% that day. Even yesterday, there was some pullback as well. Miners got impacted, but today we saw some slight increase, not to the level that we expected to see, especially with price of Bitcoin going up. But I think from a technicals, we also heard a big time investor buying into Riot today. I think that as we head into the new month, along with production data that will be announced in the next couple of days, we're going to see some upside catalysts along with CleanSpark announcing their earnings report in next week, Wednesday. That's going to be a driving catalyst for Mara and Riot because as we see earnings report from like a pure Bitcoin miner, it's expected that earnings report from like Mara and Riot will definitely demonstrate some huge net income, especially with prices of Bitcoin going up about 30,000 per coin just from Q3 through Q4 with its price appreciation of Bitcoin commodity. So overall, I think that where we are, we're at a good state here. I think that Mara, CleanSpark, Riot, we could very well see a 3 to 5x potential in the year 2025. Although today we saw volatility along with the entire week, we saw huge overselling here. I mean, even RSI got down to 20, but that's just showing that it was significantly oversold, but people took advantage buying because I do think that we're going to see that V shape back up and then begin to see these share prices actually kick in and be able to add shareholder value. So there you have it. I hope this video was valuable with my technical and fundamental analysis of Bitcoin, MicroStrategy, and Mara, CleanSpark, and Riot. So if you're new to this channel, I'd really appreciate the subscribe and a like to All I See Is W. Thank you guys.